We got measles, baby. We already got measles, dude. We are speed running the collapse of this nation. Holy crap. Child in West Texas is first U.S. measles death in a decade, man. In a freaking decade. Let's go, dude. So there's a growing outbreak in West Texas, and it took the life of a school-age, unvaccinated child who had been hospitalized in Lubbock, Texas. Most of the cases are, of course, in children. 18 people have been hospitalized so far, and all of them, of course, have been unvaccinated. Are you telling me the measles vaccine works? Nah, that's some liberal conspiracy nonsense. I ain't putting that in my arm. I ain't putting that in my kid's arms. My kid will die of measles before I put a needle in his freaking veins, bruh. Come on, man. I ain't doing that. Kennedy said the hospitalizations were mainly for quarantine, but local health officials told CNN most patients were admitted for respiratory issues. We don't hospitalize patients for quarantine purposes. Just directly lying to the public during his first freaking health crisis, dude. Amazing. Amazing. Quarantine is not something that would happen in a healthcare facility. We admit patients who need acute supportive treatment. Kennedy also referenced past measles outbreaks, saying, "It's not unusual. You have measles outbreak every year. You have measles outbreaks every year. You have measles outbreaks every year. You have measles. You have you have measles outbreaks every year." I am in hell. In the press conference, Johnson commented the United States had really gotten to a point where we just didn't see these kinds of outbreaks happening. Obviously, that's changed over the last 20-something years, and so we do see outbreaks more frequently, but that's related to how much we're vaccinating our population. When we think about vaccine-preventable illnesses, they're only preventable if we have adequate vaccination rates. I wonder what has contributed to a decline in vaccination rates over the last 20 years, or by extension, 5 to 17 years, as is the case for, as is the age demographic of most of those children currently suffering from measles. Could it be a far-right anti-science movement? Could it be a far-right anti-vaccine movement that is so simultaneously unpopular and yet successful enough to get one of their own as Secretary of Health and Human Services, who says that measles outbreaks happen every year? Not necessarily out of the norm? Could it possibly have been an anti-vaccine, anti-science, anti-health and safety, anti-child, anti-good things and pro-bad things and pro-child death movement that has percolated in the far right throughout this country, that despite its massive unpopularity, also has been successful enough to see one of their own appointed to the Secretary of Health and Human Services position? Could it have possibly have been that is cause for decreased vaccination rates? I wonder if it could have been that. Probably not, though. They're probably just getting measles because, like, they weren't built differently enough, Those 5 to 17-year-olds. The bulk of the cases, 80, remain in Gaines County, where the outbreak began, but there has also been spread to 8 additional counties. Most of the cases are in people who were unvaccinated or whose vaccination status is unknown. 5 cases were reported in people who said they have been vaccinated. Okay. Up to 3 out of 1,000 children with measles will die from respiratory or neurological complications. These outbreaks last between 2 to 6 months. That's a long time. That's a lot of kids infected. Death is rare, but tragic when it happens. There are a lot of other long words and deafness. There's a rare neurological disease that can happen. So as you have more people infected, these sequelae become more common. Best way to stay protected against measles is to get vaccinated with the MMR vaccine. Coverage of the measles vaccine is particularly low in Gaines County, where nearly 1 in 5 incoming kindergartners in the 2023-2024 school year did not get the vaccine. 1 in 5 kindergartners, man. We hate kids in this country so freaking much, dude. I swear to God, we hate kids so much in this country, man. We are doing so many things that disproportionately negatively affect kids so much. I just got done talking about the anti-trans statutes, okay, with 1 in 5 kindergartners not getting the freaking measles vaccine in Gaines County, being particularly vulnerable to outbreaks like this one, dude. We got freaking anti-sex ed statutes being pushed through everywhere. We got freaking child marriage laws on the books that these same people are pushing for. We're defunding the freaking Department of Education or potentially wiping it out entirely. My own freaking city this week just voted no to funding our freaking school district, dude. Our school district is in tatters and is closing schools despite increasing population, okay? We've already closed 2 schools and are in the process of closing 4 more because these schools are in complete and fucking utter disrepair. There was a bond, a massive school bond on the ballot just this week to actually give these schools the funding they need to provide, a safe and effective learning environment for children. And we freaking voted no, dude. We hate kids in this country so much, man. Anything we can do to make living in the United States of America as a minor more dangerous, more deadly, more vulnerable to attacks and manipulation by predators and creepy middle-aged, far-right, evangelical men that want to take you for their wife, we'll do it. Jesus Christ, man. What the hell? Where the hell was I? Oh yeah, children dying in the healthiest, not the healthiest, in the wealthiest country the world has ever seen to preventable illness. Yeah, that's where I was. Other affected Texas counties also fall below a goal of 95% vaccination rate in their kids set by HHS that's necessary to help prevent outbreaks of the highly contagious disease. So we know exactly why this is happening. Let me get ahead of the right-wing conspiratorial nonsense that's going to come as a result of this. We know why this is happening, okay? There's nothing ominous about this. There's nothing confusing about this. Gaines County has a disproportionately low vaccination rate amongst their youth, and so measles is spreading amongst their youth. That's all there is to it. They're gonna invent some kind of anti-vax excuse to explain away, why this happened here, right? I mean, these are the people saying that Democrats control the weather and are the reason why, like, the Hurricane Helene, like, wiped out significant portions of North Carolina, dude. They'll find conspiracy in anything. Given how contagious measles is, health officials warn that cases may continue to rise. I very rarely say I'm 100% sure of something, but I am 100% sure we will see an increase in cases. Texas as a state is under-vaccinated, so they are susceptible people. Space lasers cause the wildfires. Space lasers gave my kid measles, dude. It is the most infectious virus we know. However, it's a harbinger of low vaccination rates, and it is quite likely we will start seeing outbreaks of other diseases that are vaccine preventable, as well as these vaccine rates decrease. Even the 124 cases identified in Texas are likely an undercount. It will continue as long as the virus continues to find unvaccinated kids, and unfortunately, the vaccination rates in many counties in West Texas are still unacceptably low, so that's why I think it could go on for a while. I've long thought, even before I was involved in any sort of political education or political knowledge, really, or political opinion, really. I thought way back in, like, elementary school, okay, like, my first political opinion ever, baby's first politics, was parents who do not vaccinate their children are child abusers. They are unnecessarily, for no reason whatsoever, making their own child more vulnerable to absolutely horrid conditions that could very well result in their deaths. And there's no reason for it whatsoever. And when their child inevitably does get sick, they bear the brunt of responsibility for that illness. I genuinely remember having a conversation with a friend of mine in elementary school who I have not hung out in person with since elementary school, and saying this, okay? This is like a core memory for me, right? And here we are, unvaccination rates soaring through the roof. These children who are suffering probably know better than their own parents, if they're anything like me. And I'm no genius. I'm no political genius, okay? I'm doing this because I'm a combination of politically educated, a good communicator, and with good media skills, okay? That's why I'm doing this whole streaming thing. I'm not a political genius or anything. If I came to this conclusion when I was a kid, then everybody should. But nope. So, I don't know if I got a call to action on this one. This kind of just sucks. I usually try and end my segments with a call to action. Vaccinate your fucking kids. That's all I got, dude. And as always, if someone starts to say conspiratorial, anti-vax nonsense in your presence, just let them know that they are saying nonsense and nothing that they say makes sense, and that they're weird and odd and should stop talking because they're embarrassing you. Anyway, speaking of hating children, by the way, we imported Andrew Tate. The Tates are back. They're under criminal investigation for human trafficking and rape of minors. So they're back, you know. Travel ban lifted. I don't have much to say about this right now. It's just another example of the rant I had just got done with. This country hates its kids so much, dude. We will do anything to defend child predators if their politics are right-wing enough. It's been said before by other left-wing commentators, but it's true, dude. If Jeffrey Epstein made a hard right-wing pivot before he didn't kill himself, dude, he would be one of the most popular right-wing martyrs right now, dude. I swear. We hate our kids so much here, dude. It's insane. Well, they're making moves. They're making moves on same-sex marriage. It's happening. Measures being proposed in multiple states to undermine same-sex marriage. We knew this was coming. We knew that this was on the horizon. The landmark Supreme Court case Obergefell v. Hodges is, of course, what granted same-sex couples nationwide the right to marry. There are a variety of states in the United States of America that already, right now, as it stands, on the books, have same-sex marriage bans. Right? The only reason those bans are not allowed to be enforced is because of Obergefell v. Hodges. So, if Obergefell v. Hodges were to be overturned, the natural progression of law would dictate that those states in which it is still banned by state constitution, or state statute, or state legislation would immediately come into effect. Again, those states include Alabama, Alaska, Arizona, Arkansas, apparently California, apparently Colorado, okay, Florida, Georgia, apparently Hawaii, Idaho, Indiana, Iowa, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Minnesota, Mississippi, Missouri, Montana, Nebraska, North Carolina, North Dakota, Ohio, Oklahoma, Oregon, Pennsylvania, South Carolina, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, Utah, Virginia, West Virginia, Wisconsin, and Wyoming. This is according to worldpopulationreview.com as of 2024. I'm not familiar with this organization. I do not know if this is a comprehensive overview or if it is 100% accurate as to what is going on in each state. However, there are a variety of states, especially red states, but also not just red states, that would see same-sex marriages be banned or de-recognized immediately upon Obergefell v. Hodges' reversal. Now, there is also legislation on the book, the Respect for Marriage Act that Joe Biden signed in 2022, that was passed into law, that requires states to recognize the validity of same-sex marriages that were performed, initiated in states where it is legal. However, that does not change the fact that if you are in a state that has bans on the book in a same-sex marriage, and Obergefell were to be overturned, that your marriage would no longer be recognized. So, this is obviously a big deal, and the fact that they are currently pushing for it is something we've foreseen for years now, right? We've been talking about this for pretty much my entire adult life. It has never been nearly as serious of a threat as it is right now, but as is the case with everything, the threat is the strongest it's been because of the levels of power these people now have at the political level. Lawmakers in at least 9 states have introduced measures to try to chip away at same-sex couples' right to marry. 5 of the measures, including one introduced Tuesday in Michigan, urge the Supreme Court to overturn Obergefell v. Hodges. State Representative Josh Schreiber, a Republican elected in November of 2022, introduced the marriage resolution in Michigan, saying in a statement on social media that the Obergefell ruling is, quote, at odds with the sanctity of marriage, the Michigan Constitution, and principles upon which the country was established, end quote. Of course, the religious freedom argument is one of the most common arguments used against same-sex marriage laws, and it is complete and utter horseshit because your right to your own individual faith does not extend to overturning other people's right to not participate in your personal religion, other people's right to not be subjected to a state-sponsored religion, for example. And so his argument is in direct violation of the First Amendment. This is, of course, something we talk about all the time. This is something that, of course, Republicans are absolutely horrendous at, is arguing against the foundational First Amendment of the United States Constitution, but that is besides the point. This is what they have decided is their default argument against same-sex marriage, and so it is the argument they will continue to use to justify their bigotry. Increased instances of religious persecution, this is still quoting a Republican, increased instances of religious persecution have been a consequence of the court's ruling 10 years ago, Shriver said in the statement. What a big fucking baby. He cited as examples the state attorney general's 2019 announcement that state-funded adoption agencies could no longer legally turn away LGBTQ couples because of their religious beliefs, and a Grand Rapids wedding venue that faced fines and harassment in 2022 after it wouldn't host weddings for same-sex couples. Yeah, okay, if you are bigoted, you are likely to experience consequences by the community as a result of your bigotry. The new resolution urges the preservation of the sanctity of marriage and constitutional protections that ensure freedom of conscience for all Michigan residents, unless, of course, you are LGBTQ. You do not fall under the umbrella of all here. Finding a way to include just a little nugget of dehumanization in his little quote here. A group of 12 Republican legislators support the resolution. Similar measures explicitly seeking to reverse Obergefell have been introduced in Idaho, Montana, North Dakota, and South Dakota. The Idaho House passed its resolution last month by a vote of 46 to 24, and the North Dakota House passed its measure Monday 52 to 40. Lawmakers in at least 4 additional states, Missouri, Oklahoma, Tennessee, and Texas, introduced bills that don't directly refer to Obergefell, but that would, if they are signed into law, create a category for marriage called covenant marriage that would be only for one man and one woman. Exclusive marriage, marriage plus. That's what we got going on, right? If it's a straight marriage, you get marriage plus. You got the marriage plus subscriptions, ad free. Okay. Naomi Goldberg, executive director of Movement Advancement Project, an LGBTQ think tank, told NBC News in a statement that such attempts to undermine same-sex marriage rights, should they make it out of legislatures, would face a long list of roadblocks. Research shows that the majority of Americans continue to support the ability of same-sex couples to marry, and 2 years ago, a bipartisan Congress passed the Respect for Marriage Act, which both repealed the Federal Defense of Marriage Act, codified federal recognition of marriage, and most importantly, also requires that states recognize legal marriages from other states. Despite these resolutions and attempts to undermine marriage recognition, Obergefell continues to be the law of the land. This is all very, very true, Miss Naomi Goldberg. However, as we have already learned in the very short period of time in which this new fascist administration has been in power, popular agreement does not matter, popular opinion does not matter, the whims of the majority of Americans do not matter, are going to be directly trampled upon by this administration and its supporters. And also, precedent, legal precedent, Supreme Court precedent, lawful precedent, also really, kinda, doesn't really matter. This administration believes that they can do anything that they freaking want, and because there is not a powerful enough institutional opponent to stand in their way, they essentially can. So, yet again, I scream at the top of my lungs in unison with the majority of Americans. Democrats, can you please freaking do something? Can you please do something? Get rid of Hakeem Jeffries, okay? Put progressives who actually represent the wills of the majority of Americans into positions of leadership and actually follow their lead when it comes to rhetorical strategies and non-rhetorical strategies, direct strategies that stands against this wave of authoritarianism, this wave of bigotry, this wave of fascism that is sweeping the nation by storm despite mass dissent. Please frickin' do something. Get your hands dirty. We have no institutional allies protecting us right now, okay? We have precedent, something they have already showcased they don't give a single crap about. We have popular opinion, which again, they do not care about. And we got nothing else. We have a brittle, fragile, broken, incompetent Democratic Party that more often than not stands in line with these fascists than stands toe-to-toe against them. Some Michigan Democrats have already criticized Shriver's measure. At a news conference Tuesday, State Rep Jason Morgan, one of the state's openly LGBTQ elected officials, called it a ridiculous distraction that does not help a single Michigan family. With Trump leading the Republican Party, the threats to our rights are more real than they've ever been. Said Morgan, who represents Ann Arbor, which elected Kathy Kazachenko, the country's first openly gay official in 1974. Morgan added, Michigan will not go backwards. Love is something worth fighting for, and we'll never stop fighting for what is right. Curtis Hurdle, chair of the Michigan Democratic Party, said on social media that the measure, which he called deeply dangerous, isn't a surprise coming from Josh Shriver and the Republican caucus. Shriver is attacking hundreds of thousands of Michiganders who are beloved members of the community, and he doesn't deserve to serve the people of Michigan. Use language like that 24/7. He does not deserve to be in a position where he represents people in the state. He is directly attacking his own constituents and their right to access First Amendment protections that ensure them freedom from religion. He is directly attacking their own personal lives in a direct way, and therefore should be immediately revoked from his position. Be aggressive, don't let it end, actually put some fire under these people's asses. Make it a controversy, okay? Let your controversy, let your arguments with this motherfucking Josh Shriver guy, make it to the local news and have it stay there for a while. I want you yelling in the freaking chamber, dude. I want you to never let people like this live it down, because we have been given them the benefit of our, decorum-friendly posturing for way too long. And it is exactly through these processes, through this veneer of respect we pretend to have for them, that they are able to say and do and propose these absolutely vile things. No more. We need to be aggressive against it the way they have been aggressive against us for years, for decades, for entire election cycles, for my entire life. And we need to start playing as dirty against them as they have been against us. Of course, we're not going to stoop to their level in terms of authoritarianism, in terms of breaking the law, in terms of enacting or fighting for policy that harms the public, but in terms of rhetorical strategies and in terms of just outright stubbornness to back down, we need to stand directly toe to toe against them. Of course, we are not going to do that. Shriver has faced criticism in the past for the views he shared on social media. In December, he wrote on X, "Make gay marriage legal again. This is not remotely controversial nor extreme." Oh, he's that guy. He's that guy. Okay. He's this guy. Cool. Good stuff. He lost his committee assignments and staff this month after he shared a post showing a map of the world with black figures greatly outnumbering white figures, along with the phrase, "the great replacement." Oh, he's an actual white supremacist. Or at least nationalist. He's an actual white nationalist. Okay. The great replacement conspiracy theory is, of course, a false idea that a cabal is trying to replace white Americans with non-white people. Sweet, we have actual white nationalists in positions of political significance trying to strip away First Amendment rights, same-sex marriage rights, and enact a deeply authoritarian hand into the day-to-day lives of normal people. And we're not allowed to be angry in the chamber. We're not allowed to advocate for our Democratic representatives who are supposed to be representing us, you know, the pissed off masses. We're not supposed to be saying that they should get aggressive and that they should curse them out in the chamber and that they should do absolutely everything they could to besmirch these people's name, make it so inconvenient for them to go out in public anymore, make them so ashamed of what they have done with their public persona that they are afraid to continue it going forward and drop out before the next election cycle, absolutely embarrass them on the world stage. And that's just step one. We could obviously do a lot more than just pissing them off and embarrassing them, but we're not willing to even do that. Sweet, awesome, amazing. Of course, this is talking about same-sex marriage. This is talking about the L and the G and the B in LGBTQ. However, of course, as has been the case for a long time, anti-trans attacks is their bread and butter, is the more popular strategy that they are undergoing. There's this website called translegislation.com that tracks anti-trans bills going through every state. There's a map here. You can click on one and figure out exactly what is going on in that state and what stage it is at in the process. In 2025, 11 anti-trans bills have passed so far, according to the site, and you can click on any given state and see what is going on. For example, Texas, there are 75 anti-trans bills happening in Texas right now. The legislation impacts a variety of categories. Multiple bathroom-related bills, anti-drag performance bills, healthcare-related bills, relating to the definition of abuse or neglect of a child. That's pretty terrible. What's this going on? In this chapter, abuse and neglect do not include the refusal of the child's parent, legal guardian, or other person responsible for a child's care, custody, or welfare to affirm the child's expressed sexual orientation or gender identity, or address the child according to the child's preferred name or pronouns, regardless of whether the child has legally changed their name. Cool. So abuse and neglect of a child, if it is transphobic or homophobic abuse or neglect, is no longer going to be considered by Texas law abuse or neglect, assuming this bill ends up being passed, which has to go through a lengthy process in order to reach that point. But cool, that's awesome, that's amazing. We have a directly pro-child abuse bill making its way through the Texas House. Amazing. Fantastic. Fantastic. And that's just one that I've clicked on here. Of course, I can find a lot of others. This site is pretty damn good at providing the necessary information. prohibiting governmental discriminatory, a bunch of education things relating to the protection of students from sexual grooming. Sexual grooming is defined as any effort to desensitize children to sexual experiences or to normalize sexual relationships with adults or children of the same or opposite sex. Okay, obviously that last one is grooming. Sexual grooming being defined as any effort to desensitize children to sexual experiences. That is the opposite of sexual grooming. Educating children about sex is an extremely important tool in having them more prepared to avoid abusers in the future should they come across them. An educated child on the topic of sex is far more equipped to deal with a predator than a child that has not gone through that education is. A parent who determines that their child is subjected to sexual grooming at a public school is entitled to the right to protect their child from sexual grooming by selecting another school, public or private, for their child. Okay, so if there's sex ed occurring at a school, the parent can take their kid out and put them in a school that does not have sex ed. Another pro-child abuse bill making its way through the Texas House under the guise of course, protecting children from the scary trans folks out there, right? Incarceration, healthcare, other birth certificates, more education. So, and that's just Texas. That's just two examples of the 75 currently making its way through Texas right now. Anti-trans bills. There are 614 making their way throughout the country, at least at the state level, and 11 have passed currently. There remain 581 that are active. Let's look at some of the past bills. Alabama, Idaho, Kansas. This was a big one. What is that? Montana, Oklahoma, privacy protections in Utah, Virginia, Wyoming. A lot in Wyoming. Holy crap, a lot in Wyoming. In Kansas, prohibiting healthcare providers from providing gender transition care to children, requiring professional discipline against a healthcare provider who performs such treatment. I am a Kansan. I have lived in Kansas my entire life. So this is kind of embarrassing. I'm going to present this shirt proudly as a Kansas citizen who has lived in Kansas my entire life and is now forced to reckon with the fact that my state is now one of the most perversely anti-trans and therefore pro-child abuse states in the union. We now have on the books law that provides criminal punishment to healthcare providers providing healthcare to children. Cool, awesome, amazing, beautiful. You love to see the fear-mongering be successful. I am, of course, being sarcastic. This is an absolutely terrifying and terrible state of things. So, what do we do? What do we do about this? Call your reps if you happen to have a rep that might be persuadable. There are those that exist, though not many. Protest and participate in local organizations that serve to benefit trans individuals, right? There are organizations that exist, there are groupings that exist, there are groups of protesters that exist, there are activists that exist who are trying to take a stand against this, who are trying to pass legislation or statutes or measures or whatever legal word is applicable to the given situation to try and protect trans people. There are city halls that are discussing these things. There are school board meetings where these topics come up. Go to these things, participate in them. All right, take your opportunity, take your time to go up to the mic and express your dissent, right? At these local levels, right-wing, fanatical, crazy people, usually parents, are the predominant population that actually show up to these sorts of things. You need to be someone who shows up who actually has some common sense in your back pocket that can take the mic and say, hey, listen, I do not feel comfortable leaving my kid in a school system that does this. Or maybe you don't have a kid that attends school there. Hey, I don't feel comfortable simply living in a city that is so directly opposed to any form of different identification amongst our youth. That's a terrifying thing, and if you keep this up, I mean, you're going to lose a lot of people in the process. People are going to flock away from this area. They're going to take business with them, and they're going to move to, the more liberal cities that actually bother to protect their children from stuff like this, right? Or something along those lines. By no means do you have to say exactly what I said right now. That's just kind of my spur of the moment, off the cuff, thing that came to mind. But participate where this pops up, right? Go to town halls, go to hearings, go to state board meetings, go to school board meetings, I should say. Be an active participant in it. If there's the organization of a sit-in, any like city hall or state congress or something like that, see if that exists, see if that's being organized, right? And participate in it yourself. Engage in lawful and peaceful civil disobedience. Make sure it is peaceful, okay? Do not give them any excuses to take things even further. Do not give the police excuses to harm you and those around you. Engage in civil disobedience, remain peaceful, but let it be known that you are one of the many who is absolutely pissed at the state of things. And definitely don't let the Democratic representatives that exist out there to get away with it either, okay? There are many Democrats out there, the majority of Democratic politicians in this country, who are not in favor of these things that are being passed, however, are not doing practically anything to actually stand against it. Demand more action by your representatives, because we are at a dire point in this country, okay? Where we're at right now is going to be one of the most significant chapters of the history of this country, and we get to be a part of it. Yay, cool, awesome, go us, right? But the actions that our representatives take during this time are going to go down in history, okay? And they're going to be reflected upon either extremely positively or extremely negatively, depending on exactly what they did. We need to help our representatives understand that, because they are the only ones with any form of institutional power whatsoever that can stand against this. Public pressure. Public pressure. Also, don't let people get away with saying crap that defends this or attempts to normalize this. This is freaking crazy, okay? This is embarrassing. This is pathetic, and we need to treat it like that, okay? Every single time we are in public and someone brings up something about anti-trans legislation making its way through government, you need to be there and say, and scoff. That's ridiculous. That's so freaking embarrassing, as if there's not other problems we got going on. We're targeting less than 1% of the population. We're targeting specifically the kids, who are this, this extremely small portion of the population, making it harder for them to just live the lives they damn well please. It's embarrassing, and I feel bad that I'm a parent in this country, even though my kid isn't trans, or at least hasn't come out as trans yet. I'm embarrassed. I'm scared that I have to raise my kid in a country that so clearly does not respect their autonomy, that so clearly does not respect their ability to educate themselves, their ability to live their lives like the way they goddamn please and identify the way they goddamn please. It's embarrassing. It's pathetic. I'm embarrassed to live in this country. You should be too. Yada, 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 okay? We need to be saying this in public, especially if you're a straight white cis man like myself, okay? People tend to listen to us a bit more than people of other, identifiers. At very least, the people who need to be convinced of this the most tend to listen to people like us rather than people of other demographics. So when we're in public and the topic comes up, ugh, come on, this is so stupid. It's so obviously bullshit that they're doing this, that they're fear mongering about this. They're coming after our kids. It's so stupid. It's so ridiculous. We got a million other problems going on. I've never seen a fucking trans person that threatened a child. I've never seen a fucking trans person that threatened me or my family or my friends, okay? They're an extremely small portion of the population. They're just trying to live their damn lives, okay? You might think they're weird, Billy, whoever the fuck you're talking to. You might think they're weird, but whatever, right? Let them do whatever, okay? I think you're weird half the time, Billy. Drinking your Miller Lite over there like a damn phony. I'm drinking Pepsi like a real man. Anyway, yeah. Public pressure and denormalize this bigotry in your day-to-day life. That's my advice. Yeah. Get yourself a shirt like this, right? Right? I live in a red state, you know? I mentioned in this very segment, you know, I live in Kansas, right? We have on the books an extremely harmful, extremely fascistic anti-trans law now, right? I wear this shirt frequently, okay? You know how many people make it a problem for me? No one. The people who disagree with this shirt, they shut the up because they're babies, okay? They're cowards, okay? They can't handle any amount of educated conflict against them whatsoever. I wear this shirt frequently in a red state, in one of the most anti-trans states in the nation now, okay? And I get some compliments, and I normalize this sentimentality. I guarantee there are people in my workplace or in my family who have generally, you know, outside of politics, relatively positive opinions of me just as a person or as a family member or as a coworker. And then they see me wearing the shirt and they think, "Oh, I guess Casey cares a lot about this issue." Cool. And that little seed, that little nugget could end up growing and end up resulting in them, you know, thinking more positively about the issue, you know? As if it's a fucking issue. Just another idea. Public pressure. Public pressure and denormalize this crap. Because it's not normal. It's not not normal. It's never gonna be normal. It's freaky. It's weird. Call it out as such.